Hey guys, it's Ben here for Next Level Producer, and today I'm going to show you how I recorded and mixed my new single Your Love Is Amazing in only 4 hours. The single is out now, so you can stream it on whatever platform you prefer, or you could buy it on my website. I'll leave links down in the description, so if you would like to support me and my music, you can stream it or buy it if you prefer. So thank you very much in advance. So this song, I wrote this song about 13 years ago. So this was a long time ago, and I had previously recorded it, but it never really felt right. It wasn't the right style. So I'm going to play it to you in a minute, of course, but by the end of April, I was walking my dog in the morning, and suddenly the song popped up in my head. I hadn't thought about it in years, but suddenly it popped up in my head, and I was hearing it in this style, as you are going to hear. And I immediately rushed to the studio, and I only had a few hours to spare, basically, because it was the last day that I was in the studio before me and my family were leaving for Portugal for an entire month. So I wasn't going to be there for a very long time. So I only had a few hours, and I got to work and I recorded almost the entire song. And the next day I was at home. I had about an hour left, and I recorded some backing vocals with a USB microphone. So that's basically what ended up on the record. And I would love to play it for you now. So, and after that, we're going to dive in, and I'm going to explain how I made this and how I recorded everything and mixed it in just a few hours. So this is Your Love Is Amazing for my singer-songwriter project, Benjamin Theodore.
I see the sun on your face. Good morning, my love. I feel like a winner since you stepped in my life today. It's gonna be great. Everything you are still fascinates me. Oh, you make me feel like I could fly away. Your love is amazing. Your love is amazing. Your love is amazing. Sweet girl, we're going out. I see the smile on your face. You treat me, my love. I'll shoot a Polaroid so I'll never forget the moments I've spent with you. Everything you are still fascinates me. Oh, you make me feel like I could fly away. Your love is amazing. Your love is amazing. Your love is amazing. Sweet girl, your love is amazing. Your love is amazing. Your love is amazing. Sweet girl, that binds me by your side, 'cause there is no one else who is like you. Your love is amazing. Your love is amazing. Your love is amazing. Sweet girl, your love is amazing.
All right, so that's Your Love is Amazing. If you would love to hear it again, please check it out on Spotify or buy the single on my website. Your support really means a lot. So that's the song, and this is literally what ended up on Spotify. I mixed and mastered everything in the same session. I will explain this all to you in a minute, but first let's go over the parts in the song, because it started with an acoustic guitar, and as I told you, I wrote the song 12, 13 years ago, so it was ingrained in my memory, so I just played it. I think the acoustic guitar is the first take, and also, as I mentioned, I didn't have a lot of time, so I was rushed, basically. And that's why there are some, let's call it pretty mistakes in this recording. But I think the acoustic guitar turned out pretty great. I recorded it with my Slate Digital ML1 modeling mic on the, what's this? It's the FG12 setting with a little bit of compression, LA2A style kind of compressor. It's no EQ at all, and this is what it sounds like. That's it. So it's a really simple recording. I like that you can hear the strumming in the context of the entire song. Chicka chicka chick, that kind of picking sound. I love that. It gives it a sort of a country feel. Well, that's an acoustic guitar. I started with that. And I was hearing this sort of a drum sound in my head. This also sort of country 70s West Coast kind of feel. It's not country, but it's like a West Coast kind of sound. Let me play you everything. Wait a second. Yeah, I need to solo these as well, because obviously I didn't have time to set up a drum kit, go in the studio, set up a drum kit, mic everything. That would take literally a day. So I got out my good old Steven Slate Drums 5, SSD 5, and I loaded up, I think it's called the Looks to Lose Vintage preset. And that's this sound. I programmed a simple pattern. There are no cymbals involved besides from the hi-hat cymbals, and that was deliberate because I didn't want it to get the washy sound, but I wanted to intentionally leave out crashes and stuff like that. I think there's a right cymbal later in the song, but there are no crashes anyway, because those can be a little bit harsh and take up a lot of space in the high end frequencies, so I left it out intentionally. I just programmed a simple loop. I am a drummer, so I kind of know what I would have played normally, so this took like 30 minutes. So I started with the acoustic guitar to give me some guidance throughout the song. Then I programmed the drum sounds. Let me unsolo everything. This is what it sounds like in context. I used some Neve EQs on the kick drum, boosted a little bit of 3 to 2 kilohertz, and some 110 in the low end. And on the snare drum, I boosted a little bit of high frequencies, and I also fattened up the snare by adding some 110 hertz. So that's kind of the low end West Coast kind of sound. Got a fat snare drum. And then on the snare bottom, I added some compression to sort of lengthen the release of the snares. And on the overheads, I put on an API 2500. Added some output gain to give it some color. A little bit of compression. So this is the kick drum. Snare top. So if you hear it in solo, it kind of sounds plasticky, and you can hear that that's not a real drum performance, but in the context of the entire song, it works. It's just a really tight drum pattern. And the human feel gets added because of there are a lot of other instruments that are being played. For example, the bass guitar. This is an old Fender bass I found here in the studio. The G string was sort of messed up, so I couldn't use the G string, but I loved the sound of the bass guitar, so I just used it with the other 3 strings. It's a really fat sound. Perfect for this sort of style of music. I just threw on the Logic bass amp, a little bit of compression, so there's nothing else going on here. This is an incredibly simple session, as you see. This is not just a recording, but this is the mix and the master as well. So there are just a couple of plugins on the entire session. If we move on to the electric guitars, you can see there are a couple of electric guitar tracks here. And let me show you what they are. I recorded a real amp. Normally, I don't really do that because it's just easier to plug in an electric guitar straight into an interface and record a digital amp. But this is a Fender Princeton Reverb, I think, if I recall correctly. And I recorded a couple of parts with each with 2 mics. So I had an SM57 and a Royer R121 on the amplifier. They are both in phase. I recorded the capsules just next to each other, so it's the phase is really tight. And there are just a couple of parts. So this is the first one. I think this is a Strat. Yeah, and as you can see, there are no plugins on the electric guitars. It's just what you hear coming out of the amp with the SM57 and the R121. That's what you get. So this is just my Strat. It's sort of a chord pattern. Then on the right, I think that's my Tele. It's a little more jangly. So this is let me play you just the SM57. It's really bright. And then just the R121. It's darker. Together. So it sort of complements each other, which is really nice. Later on in the song, I added some drive. It's just a tube screamer. I think I had a couple of other pedals going on as well, but I don't really recall. And then there are some extra parts, and they all use the same amp, the same 2 microphones. Oh yeah, this is the lead theme. Both doubled with my Strat and my Tele. And that's basically it. And what is kind of funny, there's this melody that I play here. At the end of the song. And this kind of reminded me of the Friends theme song. Down, 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 down. That's a funny bit I added. If you've never seen Friends, you probably won't know what I'm talking about. But if you have, you probably recognize it. So anyway, those are the electric guitars. And I recorded all of that in one day, just in a couple of hours. And then I also recorded 2 lead vocals. I wanted to double the lead vocal. And this was just before I needed to leave. So I quickly recorded, I think, 2 takes or something like that for the first part. That's this one.
We're waking up, I see the sun on your face. Good morning.
It's just my Slate Digital ML1 microphone again on the U47 setting. Added a little bit of high, took out a little bit of lows, added some compression with the LA2A. It's really simple. I did add some tuning, both manual tuning with the Waves Tune plugin and some auto tune with the MetaTune plugin. It's set to 100%, and that's not something that I normally do, but I like the sound. And since I was so pressed for time, I couldn't really focus on re-recording everything and making sure that all the pitch was perfect, so I just had to roll with what I could get. And this especially goes for the second lead vocal part, the double. I think, this is literally just one take, 5 minutes before I had to leave. And I was planning on redoing it, but I tuned everything and then it sort of blended up nicely. And there are some parts where they don't quite match. But I thought this was the charm of this production, that there are some mistakes, that it's not entirely perfect. And this is a contrast to songs on my album, which is coming out this year, where everything is produced really tightly and everything is sort of perfect sounding. And this is more organic, this is more laid back, and it's more chill. And by the way, it's kind of weird that I'm releasing this song now, because my album is coming up. I have some singles for my album coming up as well, and this is not on the album. I recorded it after the album was finished, but I didn't want to leave this and not release it. It would have been a waste. I just wanted to record it, mix it, and release it, and share it with you guys, because I love the song and I just want things to be out in the world. Because my album also took so long, it took forever, and it's still not released. It's such a long process. I loved it. Was such a breath of fresh air to record this quickly, mix it quickly, finish it quickly, and now release it relatively quickly. So anyway, that was everything that I recorded on day one in I think 2-3 hours. And then the next day, when I was at home, I had 1 hour, I think, left to record some extra parts. And I busted out my Rode NT Mini USB microphone. It's just a microphone we have lying around at home for doing Zoom calls and stuff like that, but it actually sounds kind of nice. And I recorded all the backings with this microphone, and I did use the my ML1 mic model on this mic, even though it's not the modeling mic, but it kind of works. It sort of gives it the feel of the U47, even though it's probably not perfect, but hey. For efficiency, I just used the same settings on everything. So basically, lead vocals and all the backing vocals use the same settings. I have the Waves Tune plugin switched off in this session, but I think on what you hear on Spotify, it's on. So it's because the first two backing vocals, they needed some extra tuning. So I used that. And let me play you this part.
Your love is amazing. Your love is amazing.
It's really high.
Your love is amazing.
And again, if you hear it in solo, it sounds really robotic, at least for what I'm used to. Normally, I don't tune it this hard, but it's sort of worked. It blended, and it gave it a nice contrast between the West Coast organic kind of feel and gave it a sort of a modern twist. So those are the backing vocals. I used the same plugins as I told you, and they're going through a group, all the backing vocals, and I'm adding a little bit of high, just some shimmer basically with the Neve 1073 plugin by Universal Audio. Then there are some effects. The lead vocals, they're going to the Space Echo. Let me play you this part.
Your love is amazing. Your love is amazing.
So that's the reverb and the slap back echo you are hearing. And then there's a stereo delay that is automated. So it's not switched on during the entire song, but it gets turned on, I think, in the bridge. Oh yeah, that's this one, in the bridge and in the final two choruses, just to give it some extra stereo information, to give it some more spread.
Your love is amazing. Your love is
It's a ping pong delay.
amazing.
Those are the effects. So that give it a lot of color, a lot of character, a lot of depth, width, etc. The backing vocals are going through plate reverb by Universal Audio. Nothing fancy. I think I added a little treble, a little pre-delay. That's basically it. So as you can tell, it's an incredibly simple production. It's probably the simplest one I've ever done, but it sounds nice, and that's what counts. Then I also, on the second day, I had a MIDI keyboard lying around at home, and I recorded some keys because I thought that it needed some keys. This one, for example. It doubles the intro theme. Then there's and this one I kind of like. I also added a mellotron. Oh, sorry, it's this part. This one, oh, it sounds incredibly dramatic. Oh, no. But it gets resolved to to an E major chord, and this is it's only playing in the pre-chorus, because the pre-chorus, just some quick music theory here, the song is in A major, and it's A major, E major, B minor 7th, D major, etc. But then in the pre-chorus, I'm going to D minor, which isn't a chord that's in A major, as you maybe know. So this sort of adds a dramatic twist to the song. It goes to D minor, then A over C sharp, D minor, and then E major. So it revolves to A major again. But I thought the mellotron added this kind of Beatlesque vibe, and I love it. And that's why it's only playing in the pre-chorus, because that sort of is a 180 perspective on the song. Then there's an organ, and Hammond organ as well. I love Hammond organ, especially the slides. I love that. And in the second verse, it sort of plays this bad kind of part. Oh, it's just really dramatic. And in this organ, this sort of fills everything up, adds some stereo width, makes it wider, fuller, etc., etc. And that's everything that's recorded. And normally, what I teach to my students is to work in sort of phases. First, you write the song, then you record everything, you produce it, then you mix it, then you master it. But in this song, the song was written, of course, already written, but the recording, mixing, and mastering all was in the same session, and that's what made it efficient. That's why I could finish this in only 4 hours, because the mastering, let's move on to the mastering, is basically just some mix bus processing, virtual mix bus to give it some color, the Pultec to add some lows and to open it up with a little bit of highs, and then some Studer A800, a tape machine to give it that analog vintage kind of feel, as you will. Then the API 2500 for some mix bus compression. It's not doing that much, it's adding a little bit of gain, I love this compressor. It's since I got the Universal Audio one, I put it on all my tracks. I love it. And then this plugin just came out when I was making this song. It's a Capital Mastering Compressor by Universal Audio. It's adding some saturation, maybe a little bit of compression. It's not really adding any compression, but it's adding some color. And then I use the FGX2 to give it some loudness, and it's mastered to minus 10 dB LUFS. And this basically means that it's relatively loud, especially for this genre. But I wanted to give it a little commercial edge. First, I mastered it to minus 12 dB. But I wanted it to have a little bit more glue, to sound more in your face, to be more consistent, and that's what minus 10 dB LUFS gave me. So that's kind of funny, because you hear a lot that you need to master to minus 14, because that's what Spotify uses as a loudness standard. And if you're too loud, Spotify just turns your track down. But still, all the commercial songs are mastered way more loudly, sometimes to minus 7 even. It's incredibly loud. And what I am taking away from this, and what I'm hearing from other mastering engineers as well, that you need to master for what's appropriate for the song. So if you are mastering a classical piece, then of course maybe minus 14 is way too loud, so you go to minus 20, for example. But if you're mastering a commercial pop track, minus 14 could be way too quiet for this kind of production. So I mastered to taste, if we're talking about loudness, how loud the song is, and not to minus 14 dB specifically. So first I mastered to minus 12 again, but it just wasn't giving me the sort of glue, that pushing sound. And let me play you what it's doing.
There is no one else who is like you.
And the nice thing about the FGX2 is that you can add some low punch. This really enhanced the bass and the kick drum. I set it to the tight setting, which sort of tightens up the transients. I added 7.4 dB of gain, and I put the ceiling to minus 1. And this is important because for Spotify and other streaming services, you need some little bit of headroom, because otherwise your it could be the conversion could sound a little weird with streaming services. So that's basically what I did. It's really easy. And as you can tell, as we go to the final chorus, if you look over here, this is the gain reduction, the red lines. And this sort of squeezes the transients of the snare drum especially, and this is what kind of glues it together. So I really like this sound, and this is what you hear on Spotify. This is basically it. It's a really simple production. It's probably the simplest one that I'd ever done. And I hope this was helpful to you. It was interesting, maybe entertaining even to watch. If you like this song, please go listen to it on Spotify or buy it from my website. It really means a lot if you buy it from me directly, because then you support me and I can continue making music and continue to make great music as well, because Spotify is really cool. You can get discovered, you can get listened to everywhere around the world. But of course, it doesn't pay that much. So if you are able to, and if you would like to, please buy my single through the link I'll put down in the description, and that really means a lot. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of content, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. I'm planning on sharing a lot more about my music, about my songs, because this means a lot to me. It's really personal, my music, and I think my mission here on YouTube and here maybe on earth is to share my music with you guys. So I'm planning on doing a lot more of that. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.